Welcome to the first long-form version of D&D Failed. This is where I'm going to be going over all the shorts I've done in the D&D Failed Shorts playlist and go into a lot more detail. So on D&D Failed Spellcasters, so the main point I had with that one was that there were things like identify, detect, and dispel magic that really are something that pretty much any spellcaster should have access to. And it was really weird that they made you take selections. Like out of the three I mentioned, two are first level and one's a third level. A lot of times these can be some of, like in third level's case, some of your more damaging spells and utility ones, where level one is definitely going to give you a lot of options. It'd be nice if these things were just generically something that you would have access to as being a spellcaster. But they also, with this, kind of lack things like being able to suppress your magical presence and hide the fact that you're a spellcaster. Dual casting to be able to cast one spell with one hand and another with the other. And channeling to be able to channel magic through a weapon or being able to channel it into something, creating temporary or more long-term enchanting. You know, this was kind of more the focus of what I was trying to say in that video. And some people understood and some people didn't. And I communicated with people in the comment section about it and kind of got them to understand. But more to the point, the problem comes down to the Vancian method of spellcasting. I mean, it's actually anti-player when you really think about it. First off, there's only a limited number of spells you can possibly know. And this is the total amount of spells you have access to choose which ones to prepare. And within those, you have a limited number of spell slots that you are able to assign to them. Now, in some regards, you can do things like upcasting and therefore use a lower level spell slot to cast a higher level spell slot where you don't have a spell slot of that level anymore to cast it. But you can't do anything like take a level 4 and make it 2 level 2s. You don't have that option. This is why a resource system is fundamentally guaranteed to be more advantageous to the player and easier and more streamlined for people to learn and get used to. So the Vancian method of spellcasting adds a whole new set of problems to this. And that's kind of where it comes down to. If these things are selections you have to make, then you are limiting your total amount of selections you can make. And these things shouldn't be. These should just be a feature of being a magic user. This is something that the 5e system can't fix by just adding it in, because then they would have to add it to every single spellcaster, and then it would imbalance the system even further with the martial caster divide already being a thing. And, you know, one of the biggest problems really is their lack of innovation or willingness to innovate and provide new classes. Like, yes, we have the Artificer, and I think it's the Blood Hunter that Matthew Mercer made. But to this day, if they come up with a new type of magic, it pretty much goes to the Wizard. The Wizard is like the catch-all of new magical classes, magical abilities, functions, just anything. The Warlock and the Sorcerer kind of just get left behind and occasionally get some updates to new subclasses and things like that. But Wizard gets the brunt of it. And it's always bothered me because think about the advantage of being able to have something like, let's say, instead of taking the Necromancy subclass, you actually are a necromancer, and so all of your class features are actually adding to your ability to pull off necromancy. Not just spellcasting in general, and yes, I know the subclass adds some stuff to it, but really think about if you could get all of those kind of features and better ones, because it's your actual core class, to back up necromancy or elementalism, restoration, illusion, abjuration, just alteration, any of these. And it would be a focused caster. They're focusing on this school. So, of course, all their features and bonuses are going to be towards that. But when you pick your subclass now, you're delving into a specific application style that would add an extra tweak to it. You could add some form of combat, a bit of rogueness to it, add a different type of spellcasting into it, or double down on an aspect of the core class and casting class you're picking. This would have added at least 7 to 10 more classes, and people would have eaten that up. But instead, they chose to just use the wizard as the catch-all. So overall, this is the complaints I was going on about in the first, D&D Failed shorts about spellcasters. I complained that you can do things like an Arcana check, and anyone basically can, but you have to give up a selection for things like Dispel or Detect Magic, and it's like, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, for instance, think about this. If I'm a spellcaster, I'm aware of magic. Should I not be able to be aware of magic? Hence, Detect Magic. Identify, I can see, takes a little training, but if you're a spellcaster to some degree, there should be some system of like, hey, it's magic, so you can tell it's magic. And maybe the school, but if you are that school, you may be able to tell, and you studied that school, you may be able to tell like what particular spell it actually is, just off of the identify magic basic ability of being able to be a mage. With our core system, we did a whole lot of this. It's called the grouping system. Each grouping has a selection of things that any class within that grouping can pull off. And so far we have the mage, mystic, mage, psionic, martial, and technician groupings. And each one of these provides a selection of features and abilities that actually complement any class that's within it. And it's similar to how like a subclass will complement, any subclass complements the class it's a subclass of. But it's for the groupings. And this gives you things like everything I've talked about earlier in the episode, from identify and detect magic all the way to channeling and dual casting. Similar things with all the other ones. But again, if you would like to see, and because you're a big fan of 5e and you'd like to see it done better, we actually have a 5e supplement we're actually kind of testing the waters to see if anybody would actually like. Just for a little fill-in case you didn't see the short, this would bring the class total to close to 40, add several subclasses to every class, do a few variant classes to expand the fantasy ability of that class, as well as add extra attack options to most, if not all, weapons, add class-based inspiration, and so much more. If you'd be interested in that, go ahead and put that in the comments below, but also tell us, what do you think about 5e spellcasters? Do you think they failed them in any way that we didn't mention, or do you agree with something we said? Go ahead, let's talk in the comments below. But till next time, catch you later.